All right, guys, so I'm getting towards the end of this autumn painting here. I just kind of want to show you where I'm at with it. I've spent a lot of time with the light and the shadows here and getting all the leaves, the foliage, and I got pretty much most of that in. And so I'm kind of working on the final details. I feel like I'm getting pretty close to the end, so I'd figure I might as well just kind of do a little video on kind of finishing up here. So I'm kind of going back in and dropping some more colors here, maybe some fallen leaves, that are kind of sticking out. I'm using a couple different reds and ochres for this one to kind of bring out just some more details to this painting. So here's this bright red I'm using, and then I've been using up this really bright orange one to get some of the light, where the light hits this path, it's gonna sparkle maybe some leaves that are sitting on that lighted area, right? As the light hits it, those leaves are going to reflect that light back. So this kind of adds a little bit of sparkle to it. And then we can add in this one too, kind of a different red, kind of leans more of a rusty red, a little bit more brown into it, but just kind of indication of some leaves that have fallen down on this path, and you can kind of see them kind of disappear here in this middle section. Okay, so these are just kind of the final details and things that I like to just kind of go through. So you notice the light. One thing I want to talk about is you notice the light here, and the light's going to be stronger here in the foreground, and as you go further back into the scene, like as this path goes further away from us, you're still going to have light, but the light is going to change value. It's going to be a little bit dimmer. It's not going to be as bright, and also the marks are going to be blurred a little bit. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll put a different kind of light color than what I have in the front, all right, which I'm using in this color, as you see, and I'll use that as kind of the distant light on the path, and then the light that is closer to us on this path, I'm using this brighter color. Okay, so this is again talking about values and why values are so important. And you got to think about the light, how light changes further away from you, and how light is stronger when it's closer to the viewer. Okay, so that's important to kind of keep that in mind when you're going through your painting. And so I'll kind of play around and kind of enhance the light in different spots here, kind of just bring in a little bit stronger mark and not touch it with my fingers so much so that the color stays strong. And then if I even want to go brighter than that, what I can do is grab my white. Where is my white? Here's my white. All right, so this is a titanium Sennelier white, which is the strongest white that you can get for an oil pastel. It's really bright. And so let's say I really want to punch it, like let's say the light's stronger right here. You can just put a little dab right in certain areas and really pop the light. Okay, and I always save the white for the last for these kinds of things. I never start off with the white because it's just too strong in the beginning. But when you get down to the very end and you really want to punch the light and really want to make it bright, this is a good way to do this. And I just take this titanium white and I just kind of, where my light's hitting, I just kind of add to it. And if it's a little too strong, then what I like to do is I'll kind of take my finger and I'll smudge it a little bit so it's just kind of pulls it back, not so bright. But like this tree right here, this tree is getting a lot of light on the side of it here from the sunlight that's coming right here. So let's just give it a little bit more light added to these highlighted areas and just see what that looks like. Right, as the sun is kind of popping through this forest, right, and it's hitting this tree and bringing out the texture within the tree bark. Maybe some of these brights are just a little bit brighter. Okay, so you can kind of play around with that, and like I said, if it's too much, you can always just take the finger and just kind of smudge it a little bit, and that kind of knocks it back so it's not so vibrant, so bright. But you can see how much that helps in that area. Now I even come down here in the path and kind of brighten up some of these marks down here. And keeping in mind that when I do light like this, the strongest light is always going to be right here in the foreground area. And as I move back, it's not going to be so strong. The light's just going to kind of get weaker. You know, it's not going to be so bright. And so you can see how I can kind of touch that up and enhance some of these lights in here. And if it's too much, I can smudge it and kind of move it around and change the value of that color. Right, so my brightest brights, my strongest colors are always going to be right in this section. And as we go back, you can see these are really muted, and you can even see the texture, how it's kind of blurry. There's no real strong edge, right? Because I take my finger and I kind of blur edges and I kind of smear the colors, and that really dulls them out. And then on the foreground, I don't do that. You see, I kind of leave these. I kind of leave the light, and I don't smudge it, so I don't blur those edges. So just you know, good technique to think about when you're working on a painting. And you know, I think of values in different ways. I think of values in the strength of the color, how strong it is, and I also think of values in texture wise. Like there's more texture in the foreground. This gives us a sense of distance, a sense of you know, space within inside the painting. So it's not just a flat two-dimensional thing. There's actually, you feel like you're on this path, and you feel like you're looking down it, and so you can use values, texture and values, not only color values but texture value. That's what I'm trying to get at. Texture value, the value of the texture, how soft the edges are compared to how sharp and crisp those edges are. So in the foreground here, you know, it's a stronger mark, and I'm not going to touch that with my finger. And you see how that just pops up, pops right to us, gets us closer to this area, right? And then back in there, as you go back in there, you see those lights have dimmed out. They're just not as strong. So, right, and if I want to, maybe I want to bring a little bit of a brighter right here, just to kind of slowly transition that light. Okay, but I'm always going to come back with my finger and kind of smear those edges so it's not so strong. Okay, so that gives us a good sense of being on this path, and you know, feeling like we're actually here. And also the same thing with the darks. Like, you want your darkest darks. This is a very dark blue. I think it's 007, which is my favorite dark for the Sennelier brand. And you can see I'll come in and I'll keep the darks right here at the foreground, this dark. So I use this a lot in the trees to kind of keep the darks here in the foreground. Right, so I'm going to come back in here a little bit and just kind of drop some darks here, right, just to pop this area forward, make it feel like it's closer to us. Okay. And always, you know, if it's too much, I can always just take a finger and kind of smear it a little bit, so it's not so I guess the contrast is not so strong. All right, so just yeah, I think we're nearing the corner here, and I'm just kind of playing around and poking at it. This is a good time to probably stop, but as you know, if you watch my videos, you know I like to keep poking around. And eventually I'll get to the point where I'm going to sign it, and I think a good spot to sign would be right here. So I'll just use this red to sign it, and I'm just going to put my initials here. Real simple, something like that. And then I like to seal it with a thumbprint because I think that's cool. There. You can see my print. Right. All right. So yeah, I think adding that white really popped it, and now I might come back later on tonight and keep working on the shadows, but for the most part we are pretty much there, and I'm very happy with how it came out. And we'll take some close-up shots here. You can see where I use that white and how that really works there in the foreground, and all the sparkles of light just by using color. Here in the different oranges I've used in the foliage, and as you see here, and as the path leads away from us, how you can see that's all blurred out, and the edges are not sharp or crisp, and the light kind of, it's not as bright as it is up here. So that gives you that sense of distance, that sense of we're looking down this autumn path here. All right. Right, and also I like to look at it from several feet away. Yeah, it's always good to look at it from different angles, making sure it all works. I think it all works. I think this is a fun one and really enjoyed it. And I know I didn't do a full tutorial, but I like to just make these little shorter videos and just add my 2 cents. And anyway, all right, guys. Well, again, it's good to be back. And all right, I'll see you next time.